Hello YouTube, welcome back to another episode of Train Simulator Classic. Today we're going to be looking at a brand new locomotive that has just come from the guys at the New Zealand train sim builders. These are the guys that did the JAs and the Midland route. Both very excellent. We're on the Midland route right now. So this is one that's been in their works for quite some time now. This is a gorgeous locomotive overall. It's a little bit bigger than the JA. So the JA is a 482. These are 484, and these go even further into the pro modeling of Train Simulator. So just a fair warning right off the bat, these locomotives are not a simple drive at all. I would honestly say in the couple hours I have owned this locomotive now, I have found it to be a bigger headache to learn how to drive than anything Smokebox has ever put out. Now granted, there's not a whole lot to the 18th century locomotives. They're the 1800s locomotives. Sorry, the 1800s locomotives. Those the early 440s and such. There's not a whole lot to those. But stuff like the big boys and the FEFs, they can be a little intimidating when you first hop in the cab with all the bells and whistles. But there's really not a whole ton to them to get them going. But these things right here, there's a lot. There's a lot, and they do something that we have never seen in Train Simulator before, at least as far as Railworks goes. They added a booster unit. So, what is a booster? Well, as it looks right now, this looks like a normal steam locomotive, as their typical builds. You know, you got your boiler, your cylinders are up here on the front that connect with your main drive wheels, and this is the most important part. When you're running down the line, this is all you're really going to be worried about. However, when you got a heavy train and you're sitting in the yard, you're just now taking off, some of the later steam locomotives across the world have booster units. And the booster units vary from locomotive to locomotive and country to country. In the United States, a lot of heavy yard switches and whatnot, they would have a booster unit strapped to the tender, but a lot of over-the-road locomotives will have them right here on the rear trailing truck. So on your rear set of wheels, there's oftentimes on these bigger, later locomotives a booster, which will give you a very much needed and helpful little bit of oomph for taking off with a heavy load. Now, these are the booster units are typically only used in yard speeds. So past 15 miles an hour, you're really not going to use it. You're not going to get much use out of it. But for starting off with a train to get your momentum going, they're an excellent help. And for the first time ever, they have been modeled in Train Simulator, Railworks. So that is a really cool thing. Now, whether or not I try to dive into it in this video is a whole nother ball game, because like I said, I've had it for a couple hours now, and I'm struggling a lot. I'm struggling a lot, not gonna lie. There are a couple tutorial videos out there now, and of course the README. Please do read it. Read the README. You absolutely have to. You will not get this locomotive to move not one single inch without reading the README file. Trust me, it's important. There's a lot to it, but it's important. Now you will notice, for those of you that might have looked at the pack, you'll note that these do come with a set of freight cars. I have not been successful in placing them down without having an immediate out of memory error crash. So unfortunately, I cannot show off the freight cars that these come with, because well, it wouldn't be in game. I'd be sitting in the Steam store just staring at the pictures. So I have not gotten to experience the freight cars. It does come with a guards van. I didn't bother to put the guards van down. The guards van I have managed to get to be able to place without having issues, but every time I've tried to place down any of the freight, it's just an immediate boom, black screen, out of memory error. So unfortunately none of the freight are here, but I do get to play with the locomotives. So with the pack, what will you get? You will get a clean-ish variant. So there is no fresh out of the builder clean. Their clean is what they call clean operational. So it's a locomotive that's actively used, but well taken care of, polished up, maybe for some passenger services or whatnot. You want a relatively clean locomotive. So this is the clean variant. This will be the one that we fiddle with. And then you got two stages of weathering. You got W1 and W2. W2 being quite dirty. Nice, dirty, and aged. It actually looks really good, though. Their weathering job really does look quite nice overall. Especially their tender. This is cool. This is something that is missed all too often, even with some of the pros that weather their steam locomotives for other countries. They typically miss the fact that water that sits tends to leave aftermarks. And when you go to fill up your tender or your side tanks or whatever, all too often you're gonna miss. It's just how it is. You're gonna miss with some of your water right off the bat, and it's gonna get all over. And it's typically not modeled, but here we see a model, which is really nice, really nice. Of course, they're awesome number plates. Their number plating and builder's plates are really good looking overall. Really like them. Look at that. That looks dirty and greasy. Disgusting. It's awesome. Now these are a couple dead locomotives, so you will get variants with the variants. So you'll get drivable, which is what we got going on over here. You get drivable, and then you'll also get AI and dead, static. These both are static, so obviously no steam coming out of ports, no smoke coming out of the stacks, which is a helpful thing for frame rates. We got a fire going on, but it's a helpful thing for frame rates if you're trying to maybe fill in the yard, have a locomotive sitting around not really doing anything. It's something that I wish more developers would do, because this actually makes a difference. Having a bunch of locomotives sitting here with steam pouring out of them, smoke pouring out of them, it actually does take a hit on your frame rates. And every little bit helps on the Midland Rhine. As many of you know, the Midland route is a heavy hitter on anybody that ain't got a $4,000 computer. It will take a punch. So you take every little bit you can get to help keep the frame rates down on this route. So that is one of the options that they have given. So lots of new things with this locomotive. Lots of new things. It's very great idea, great ideas, and just well done. Personally, I'm a big fan of the number 2 weather, or the number 1 level of weathering. I really like the flat coloring all over it. In my opinion, it just looks nicer. The reflection in Train Simulator just has never looked right, maybe is a way to put it, which isn't anything on the New Zealander guys. This locomotive looks great. I don't know, I'm more drawn to the flat black. This right here, it looks really nice. Looks like a locomotive in operation. But we'll be using the clean variant today. Oh, goodness gracious! You think the big boy's daunting? This is wild. So as with the JAs, you can fiddle with your windows. You can fiddle with just about anything and everything on these locomotives. Let's see what we got. Open a roof here. Windows here. Our little basket. And you get a ton of different preset views, which can be a bit of a headache if you're trying to quickly go through everything. I can't look around in this, but this is looking down into our booster. Look at this booster parts. So let's see, we got booster idler, booster engine idling valve, air cutoff lever, of course regulator, reverser. And then as with the JAs, we got our very well modeled lubricators and lubricating system. You have two separate lubricators though, one for your booster and one for your normal operation, which for those of you that have been fiddling around with the JAs, you already kind of have a pretty good idea on how these boosters work, or how these lubricators work. So nothing too entirely new here, but definitely something new here. So with the booster's lubricator, you do have to warm it up, and it does take a couple minutes. So like I said, this is not a locomotive you're gonna hop into and take off with. It won't work. If you want to fiddle with all your functions and such on these locomotives, you gotta sit with them. So it does take about 2 minutes to warm up your lubricator, which we will set up in a minute maybe. Driver's side glass, booster lubricator, steam meter, steam heating, air brake, lubricator. Goodness gracious, it's been an interesting week. Here's another one. It took me a second to figure this one out. The generator's over here on the fireman's side for our lighting, so let's keep that on. Now there's a little valve here. I don't know what it goes to. Got that hot water injector main, our blower, exhaust steam injector, hot water injector live, fireman increase, decrease, injector water. Now this has been a little bit funky for me, so I typically run without the F4 HUD unless I'm making videos or whatnot. But even loading into the game, like just like this, I'd load it in exactly like this, immediately clicked on the locomotive. Without the F4 HUD on, I still have issues with my information not updating with the control. Sometimes the controls don't even work. Like without the F4 HUD right now, sometimes this just doesn't work. I don't know what's going on with that, but it's not too much of an issue. When you load in, much like a lot of the smoke box items, you're going to want to build your fire up, and the fire does change. So like right now, our fire mass is 5174. You're going to want to build that up till it's nice and white hot for going up and down mountains. Locomotive is loud, so we're going to open our F4 HUD. Like I said, please run the... Now, playing with it earlier, this is something I haven't figured out why it does this. Playing with it earlier, without the F4 HUD up, Opening the firebox automatically starts a coal shoveling rate. You'll hear your firemen shoveling coal. Just then, though, as you guys saw, I didn't have the F4 HUD on. I opened the firebox and nothing happened. So it's kind of hit or miss whether or not that wants to work the way your intended for it to work. Oh, what else do we have? Fire door pedal. Something, I don't see any dampers. It's kind of interesting. Driver side sight glass, water valve, heating pressure. As you guys can see, as our fire builds up a little bit, it starts to get to a nice white glowing hot. Now, since we're sitting, our lubricator control valve is in idle position. You won't have to fiddle with either of these for now, and you also don't have to fiddle with your adjustments, but you will later. So below 35 mile an hour, you don't have to adjust the flow rate. The flow rate comes set when you load the locomotive in the game for you. But as you get the locomotive above about 35 miles an hour, you will have to adjust your oil flow rate. What else we got? Blow down valve, cylinder cocks. This took me a minute to find, not gonna lie. I'm used to it being a giant lever. Booster slip control valve, booster latch cam, of course our reverser, and then it does have locomotive and train brakes, locomotive train. What else can we point out that's a little wonky? Yeah. So, for those familiar with a lot of the British locomotives, they'll require you to hold the E key to open a latch to move your reverser. Something kind of similar has been modeled here. So, like right now, we're sitting at 40%. You'll have to open this little drifting catch lever to put your throttle to full. Or your reverser to full. If you need your reverser to full, you'll have to open that little lever every single time you pull this back past 40%. So we'll pull it back, 40%, and the latch falls down again. And then to push it past 41% again, you're going to have to open that latch. So, just a duly noted there. Open those cylinder cocks. If you don't, you will absolutely blow the cylinders off the front of this locomotive. Not really. It doesn't actually, it's not modeled, but in real life you would end up doing that. So in the game, if you try to take off, you haven't opened your cylinder cocks, it'll give you a little pop-up message saying you blew your cylinders or something. Booster sander, regular sander. The lubricator for our boosters. You'll get a little pop-up over here. Booster lubricator is warmed up sufficiently to begin warming the booster engine. Booster lubricator is now warming for use. So it'll tell you right up here whenever it's ready to go. Handy little information. You can turn off these little warning labels if you don't like them. But, you got a drifting valve for whenever the locomotive's going downhill. You open your drifting valve so that you continue pushing oil through your cylinders. Otherwise, you will seize them up and you will end the game. Sure, our track is open. Not gonna bother sticking our reverser in full. There's no real reason to. I don't know if it's modeled outside. Yeah, Unfortunately, it is not. A little bit sad there, but it is what it is. It's kind of a neat little, neat bit. It's wild to watch. Like I say, it takes a second to go through all the views and whatnot, which can be a little frustrating. Oh yeah, it does have those smoke box style brakes. So to release your brakes, obviously we've already bailed out for locomotive brakes specifically, but to release your brakes, you'll have to go through your notches, which can be a little bit of a headache on keyboard. Sit here and click and click and click trying to get it to release, but it is what it is. Don't leave your brake in release for very long, otherwise you will have to set it to emergency because you overcharged your brakes. Got our gauges over here with our brakes releasing. Set our lubricator for our operational position. And we'll start opening our throttle. It does have a gradual throttle, so it has a little kick-in spot right about there. Since we're rolling, we don't need that open anymore. Again, so I struggle for a second. Sound-wise, there's nothing too special here. For the most part, it uses a lot of the same sounds that the JA does as far as operating goes. It uses the same shuft sounds and such. I haven't quite figured out the booster, so I don't know what the booster actually sounds like, unfortunately. Good lord, finally. You'll get a little pop-up there. See, we're past 35 mile an hour. You'll get a little pop-up right up here. It'll tell you whenever one isn't quite right. And then you pull up your Control-Shift-K, as it says, Control-Shift-K. And it tells you right here. Boom, 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 boom. So you'll have to go right up here and adjust them. Now, as I said, you'll have to play through the views to get there properly, too. Which can be a little annoying. Now you can see these little drops here. Now, oh goodness. These two valves right here, you got to be looking at them just right to get them to come, get the hip arcs to work. Now we got our oil valve going. Ad speed is kind of interesting. It has a very rushed chuff. I mean, it's supposed to, but it's kind of interesting sounding. I'm not gonna lie. Now, we're gonna play through the whistles in a second. Whenever we get up here to Kauai. Oh goodness. As I said, the good old Midland Line. You got to turn down your view distance to maintain any kind of semblance of frame rates on the Midland Line, but that also means that whenever you get up to speed and your computer decides to start loading in the distant scenery, it's going to struggle for a second. It does have some fun whistles overall, but they do kind of irk me a little bit. We'll look at why in a minute. I also haven't got to go through all the lights. I figured I'd save those for last because the lights are another one of those weird things that will murder your frame rates, and I mean murder. Computer struggle while our scenery loads in again. Keep on rolling. Now see how we have no throttle on right now? You'll have to turn on this coasting valve, otherwise you won't be pushing, you won't push any oil through your cylinders, which is, oh, no. Now this thing has got some really slow injectors for the F4 HUD anyway. They are incredibly slow. It's kind of entertaining, especially when compared to the JA. With the JA, I 100% have forgotten them, and yeah, the JA will outrun you. We'll put our lubricator back. So, let's turn this off. Turn our HUDs off, because like I said, the headlights, or not the headlights, but the accessory lights, they will take a hit. But right now we're sitting here, we're looking out our window. We got about 60 frames a second, fluctuating between 56 and 60. Right to the outside, we get about 50. Now let's go through and turn on our lights. So, our gauge lights are up here. Brake gauge and speedo. Sight glasses. Inside the cab starts to drop down to 50, 48. Get out of view of the lights, and start to jump up, about 56, kind of fluctuates. Speedometer here, that lights up. Now the lighting effects are awesome, but it takes a heavy toll. Well, now let's see, our cab lights right here. Our cab lights right here, put that on. Bam, our frame rates plummet. Sitting at about 27, 30, 29. And it does affect exterior because our lights show up. So what goes on inside goes on outside, which is really cool. It's really really neat that they do that, but it takes a massive hit on your frame rates. So typically I run without the cab lights, and I don't deal with the gauge lights unless I absolutely have to. And then here are your headlights, so front, rear, forward is bright. I had mixed feelings about the headlights. And I had the same with the JAs. I do not like neon white. It looks like a bright, modern LED headlight. It's just, I don't like it. I've never liked it. I don't like it on any model in Train Simulator because, quite frankly, it's very rare to see a train, even today, that's got bright, neon white LEDs. But that's our brights, front and rear. flick them to the back. Boom, boom. Not quite as harsh. Matter of fact, the dims I actually kind of like a little better. The dims have kind of more of this yellowy hue to them that really does look better. Kind of a nice yellowed, more of an incandescent style. Turn those off. And these locomotives are loud, loud, loud. As you guys can tell, the pressure relief valve has been going for most of this video, and this locomotive is loud, loud. So is the JA. So is just about any other steam locomotive in the world. Whenever the pressure relief valves go off, it's very loud, but it's very prominent here in this one. So whistles. We get whistles. We get fun whistles. So unlike the JA, we get all sorts of whistles. So one of the things I like about this over the JA is your fireman whistle is the short whistles, while your driver's side chord is the long whistles, so that you can play with that in the cab if you don't want to use your mouse or your keyboard. You like using your mouse and physically touching, so our short whistles on the fireman side. So a bunch of little tunes, bunch of different tunes that play for the short whistle. It is kind of entertaining though, because some of the tunes do not sound like the same whistle, but that it could also due to a few different factors. Well, we get our short one here. Come over here, we got our long, our playable. Now that one's the same audio file as the JA. And then it's got a little end toot whenever you let off. If you hold the whistle down for a period of time, it's got a little ending spurt, which different tune. Again, ending spurt. I held it down. Different tune. Ending spurt. Different ending spurt. Different ending spurt. That high pitch one. So the whistle will play differently for however long you pull it. Shift space will also play your short whistle if you're outside the view. Overall, they sound pretty nice, but I had the same complaint with the JA too. The ending loop is non-existent. You can hear it very abruptly. The second you let off the space bar, it just cuts off. There's no kind of wind down. There's no bleed off of pressure. It's just done. Ended. Like that. It just cuts off. There's no ending file whatsoever, which I don't like. And personally, I'm not a fan of the end toots for the long whistle. I don't mind them for the short play. I don't mind that, but I don't like when the whistle is preset. I like to be able to play the whistle myself. That's just me. Some of you guys probably enjoy it like that as it sits, and you do you, as I say. I like to be able to play the whistle on my own. That's just me. So I'm not a huge fan of the ending toot. I'm not really sold on it, but I do like the idea of the different whistles, I kind of wish that you had more of a keybind to swap through the whistles yourself rather than just randomizing it as you play the space bar. It's not a terrible idea, but it's not one that I'm hugely sold on. Because well, your whistle doesn't really, the actual physical whistle doesn't really change, but a lot of those sound like completely different whistles. And then the ending toot that is randomized as well can sound like a completely different whistle than the whistle that played for the long pull. So I think it's something that didn't really, in my opinion, it doesn't really blend as well as it could or should. But really and truly, that's my only complaint with this locomotive. That's my one big complaint with this locomotive is the whistles. They're very weird. They play very weird, but other than that, it'd be nice if I press your relief valve would shut up. But blow off some pressure here. But overall, it is a very, very nice locomotive. Very nice locomotive. Let's take it in reverse. Just that for being able to move. Pull our reverse lever back. Yeah, see, this is where Smokebox's special brakes can be frustrating. If you don't use a rail driver or whatnot, if you're just using mouse and keyboard, you're trying to sit here and hold it, and it does not, in my opinion, it has never played off very well with a mouse and keyboard, but good lord, finally. The water getting a little low there. Firebox and injectors will override your manual controls. So this is kind of odd. It looks cut off. Well, it's my first time experience this one, so you guys are experiencing with me. It looks like part of this message is cut off. I mean, there's a bottom half of a couple letters there. And this is definitely not the beginning of a sentence. So I think this is much like the JA when you first spawn into the locomotive. It's telling you, you know, you can run it with the F4 HUD, or when you close the F4 HUD, it should run in more of an expert style for mouse and keyboard. But okay. Alright. Yeah. Okay, well, that's a interesting little issue. It's got some really nice idle sounds. I really like the idle sounds overall. I do kind of wish there was more of a little bit of a clank or something. Some kind of something with all these rods just rolling, not under power, because it's a little quiet. The actual like physical rolling sounds of the rest of the locomotive and the kind of like wind going by sound is cool, but the lack of anything coming from these drivers while we're in operate without under power, but lack of anything from here is a little annoying, but it's also not the only locomotive that has that issue. I love the wrapping on this piping here. That looks really cool. It's kind of interesting. This thing's got angled cylinders. You can kind of see just barely the cylinders angled backwards a little bit. Slowly pick up speed. It's a good looking locomotive. Let's go ahead and bring it to a stop now. We're played through everything that I could figured out. I imagine after I played with this for about a week or two, I might be able to really figure it out properly, but like I said, this locomotive will definitely take you guys some time to figure out. It is not a quick, easy read. Much like the JA, it is very much a pro locomotive. It is very pro done, pro operation. If you want to get the full experience out of it, I do highly recommend this model. I highly recommend everything that these guys have done. They do an excellent job overall, but it definitely takes a second to figure it out. It definitely does. So check it out. It is available in the Steam store. They have not put it on their own webpage, which kind of made me sad. I prefer to support developers directly over paying through Steam, but it is what it is. I do highly recommend it. Do go check it out. It is a neat locomotive, especially for the New Zealand guys, because you guys really don't have a whole lot, so it's nice to be able to increase that stock a little bit, especially a locomotive more meant for the Midland route. This locomotive is very well known for this route, so I do recommend it. Outside of the couple issues I pointed out, I really have no complaints with it. It's just definitely too early to really show an in-depth video for it, because it takes a lot. It does take a lot. There's a lot going on with this locomotive. So check it out in the Steam store. I will see you guys next time.